The Tesla Cybertruck has achieved a landmark 5-star safety rating from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So, regardless of what you might have read on the internet about the Cybertruck being a death trap on wheels, this independent verification actually solidifies the Tesla Cybertruck as the safest pickup truck you can buy. The timing of this release from the NHTSA is interesting, because earlier this month, the website FuelArc published a report claiming the Cybertruck was the deadliest vehicle ever made, even surpassing the infamous Ford Pinto, a vehicle that was so dangerous Ford had to stop producing it after numerous reports that the Pinto would burst into flames after a rear-end collision. That was proven to be caused by a flawed gas tank design, and 27 people died as a result of fire in the Pinto, which is a fatality rate of 0.85 deaths per 100,000 units of the vehicle that were sold. Using limited data from the Cybertruck's single year of production and just over 30,000 units actually produced, the FuelArc report made a claim that the Cybertruck fatality rate was 14.5 per 100,000 units, 17 times more deadly than the Ford Pinto. They based this calculation on the 5 known fatalities involving the Tesla Cybertruck, except one of those deaths is attributed to the guy who shot himself inside a Cybertruck and then blew it up. Not exactly something that you can pin on the vehicle itself, but FuelArc did. So that headline took off like a firestorm across the internet in early February, and regardless of obvious flaws in the reporting, the damage was done. Now, snapping back to reality, the NHTSA safety rating was published February 20th, and Tesla themselves released this video with some behind-the-scenes clips of that testing process. Here's how that testing and rating process actually works. The NHTSA evaluates vehicles through 4 primary crash scenarios: frontal impact, side barrier collision, side pole collision, and rollover resistance. Each test simulates real-world accident conditions to assess structural integrity, restraint system effectiveness, and occupant protection. The Cybertruck underwent these evaluations using a 2024 CyberBeast model. In scenario number 1, frontal crash, Cybertruck scored 5 stars on the driver's side and 4 stars on the passenger side. The frontal barrier test simulates a head-on collision between 2 vehicles traveling at 35 miles per hour. During this evaluation, the Cybertruck demonstrated exceptional structural resilience with no windshield intrusion and full door operation post-impact. The driver's side dummy recorded a 5-star injury probability rating, while the front passenger received 4 stars due to marginally higher chest deflection metrics. Scenario number 2, side barrier test. Cybertruck received 5 stars for all passengers front and rear. This evaluation replicates an intersection collision where a deformable barrier strikes the driver's side at 38 miles per hour. The Cybertruck's stainless steel exoskeleton and reinforced B-pillar architecture limited cabin deformation to under 4 inches at the maximum. Both front and rear passenger dummies registered low head injury criteria scores, earning a 5-star rating across all seating positions. Scenario number 3 is the side pole test, and the Cybertruck earned 5 stars for all passengers. In the pole impact scenario, a 20 miles per hour collision with a rigid object at a 75-degree angle. The Cybertruck's side airbags prevented head contact with the pole. The vehicle's angular design, which is often criticized for aesthetic reasons, actually proved useful here by redirecting crash forces away from occupants. Scenario number 4, rollover resistance. Cybertruck scored 4 stars with a 12.4% risk of rollover in single vehicle loss of control scenarios. While this percentage is higher than passenger cars, it also represents the lowest rollover probability among every tested pickup truck, including the Ford F-150 Lightning, which was 12.6%, and the gasoline-powered F-150 at 19.3% rollover probability. The NHTSA found that Tesla's adaptive air suspension and low-mounted structural battery pack played critical roles in minimizing center of gravity shifts, although the factory 35-inch tires marginally increased rollover susceptibility compared to smaller-wheeled EVs. It's worth noting that the Chevrolet Silverado EV and Rivian R1T remain untested by NHTSA as of right now. In their additional notes, the NHTSA found the Cybertruck's 3mm thick stainless steel exoskeleton distributes impact forces across the vehicle's frame, reducing localized damage. Paired with gigacast front and rear subframes, this design channels collision energy into replaceable crash cans which are a departure from conventional unibody crumple zones. During frontal impacts, these components absorb up to 35% of kinetic energy before engaging the main structure. Kinetic energy is just the energy of an object in motion, its mass times velocity squared. So, yes, it is true what you've heard that the Cybertruck doesn't have crumple zones. It has crash cans, which are actually more effective and will keep you safer on the inside, in addition to absorbing the kinetic energy of whatever hit you. So if that's another vehicle, then they are hitting a softer target and will actually experience less force because of that. Regarding the battery pack, NHTSA concluded that Tesla's CyberCell battery pack serves dual purpose, powering the vehicle and reinforcing the chassis. Mounted beneath the cabin floor, it lowers the center of gravity by 15% compared to body-on-frame trucks, enhancing rollover resistance. The battery's honeycomb matrix also prevents intrusion into the passenger compartment during undercarriage impacts. So, there you have it. The inside of a Cybertruck is about as safe as it gets, verified by science. The two oldest vehicles in the Tesla lineup are due for another refresh later this year. That's according to Tesla's Vice President of Vehicle Engineering, Lars Morvai. On a recent episode of the Ride the Lightning podcast, Lars was asked about the future of the Model S and Model X. He replied, "Just give it a minute, we'll get there. The upgrade a couple of years ago was bigger than most people thought in terms of architecture, and the structure of the car got a lot better too. But we'll give it some love later this year and make sure it gets a little bit, with the stuff we've been pushing in 3 and Y. Obviously, with 3 and Y, the higher volume stuff, you've got to focus there." The previous refresh of the vehicles in 2021 was focused primarily around the new 3-motor Plaid powertrain that shot the Model S into position as the fastest accelerating production car in the world, a very cool title to own. There were also some much-needed refinements to the interior, most notably the transition from a vertical center screen to horizontal. Tesla played around with a controversial new steering yoke design, but that was eventually made into an optional accessory. When they were first released, the Model S and Model X were the only high-performance luxury electric vehicles on the market, and even after some competition arose around the beginning of the decade, the Tesla vehicles remained class-leading by a long margin. But today, that's a very different story. We have very high-quality products from Lucid and Rivian that bridge the gap between Tesla levels of performance and more traditional luxury vehicle features. Then you have the legacy brands like BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Porsche. They're all making new electric vehicles that are rapidly catching up to Tesla levels of performance while bringing much more established brand legacies and existing customer base to the market. While the competition has grown their EV market share, sales of Tesla's Model S and X have remained flat for years. If anything, they're moving less inventory than before, and that sucks for 2 reasons. One, there is a lot of existing infrastructure in the Tesla Fremont factory that's not being used at full capacity, and 2, these are high-margin products. They're marginally more expensive to build than the Model 3 and Y, but they sell for significantly higher price tags. Selling more luxury cars bolsters the company profit margin. So if Tesla is going to keep these 2 products in their lineup, which is debatable if that's really the best course of action, then they need to do something genuinely special with them. Okay, here is something interesting. It looks like Tesla is in the process of a stealth release for FSD in China. We heard from Elon last month that the process of launching full self-driving in China is particularly difficult because they can't export training data from Chinese vehicles to train the algorithms in the USA, but as an American company, they also can't build new AI infrastructure in China. And yet we have a new report that a team of engineers from Tesla's US headquarters traveled to China in early February to help with the local development of FSD features in the country. The data used for algorithm training in China were from Tesla's engineering vehicles that have been driven on specific roads around the country since last year. As a result, Tesla has begun to roll out a new software update to specific vehicles around the country. It's unclear what specifically qualifies a vehicle to take part in the initial software rollout, but we know that Tesla first released FSD beta in the US to employees and trusted supporters. It's also reported that only Tesla vehicles with AI hardware version 4 can run the new software. It's important to note that the Chinese feature is not called FSD. It's known as Autopilot Automatic Assisted Driving on Urban Roads, which sounds a lot like the Navigate on City Streets feature that was released with the first round of FSD beta testing in America. So here's how Tesla China describes the new feature. Using autopilot automatic assisted driving on controlled roads and urban roads will guide the vehicle out of ramps and intersections according to the navigation route and identify traffic lights at intersections to go straight, turn left, turn right, turn around, etc. It will also automatically change lanes according to speed and route. When the navigation route is not set, the optimal road will be selected according to the actual road conditions. As you can see from the first round of user-generated videos that have hit the X platform, FSD appears to work pretty well even in the often chaotic environment of Chinese cities. Elon Musk said that 2025 would be the most important year in Tesla history, and launching FSD in China would definitely be a big part of that milestone.